Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. When it comes to retirement, have you ever wondered, how many accounts do I actually need? Should you rely on just one account, or does having multiple accounts give you a stronger plan? And if you have multiple accounts, which ones should you prioritize? Well, here's the thing. It really does come down to your personal situation. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. And before we dive in, let's take a look at some data that might surprise you. According to the Federal Reserve, 54% of U.S. households have a retirement account. Among retirees, the stats get a little bit better, with 73% of retirees reporting having one. But, and this is important to note, 47% of retirees with investment accounts rely on a single investment account. Is relying on one account enough? This is an important question to ask because the account or the accounts that you have available affect your income in retirement, and importantly, how that income is taxed. Among retirees today, the most popular investment account they have is a traditional 401k, which has been around since 1978. The traditional IRA was created a bit sooner, back in 1974. But employer-sponsored retirement accounts are more widely used than individual retirement accounts. When it comes to the Roth IRA, that account wasn't available until the late 1990s. And if we're looking at the Roth version of employer-sponsored retirement accounts, well, that wasn't even available until 2006. So today's retirees took advantage of the accounts that were most widely available to them. Today's investors have more options available to them. I thought this might make for an interesting concept if we explore what retirement or an income in retirement might look like if you only had one account to draw on, exploring it from the concept of having just a traditional or just a Roth or even just a brokerage account. How would that affect the income that you're able to pull from your accounts? So let's say we have a couple. We'll call them Jason and Emily and assume they're each 63 years old. We will say they are married for tax purposes and say they have a withdrawal need from their investments of $75,000 a year, beyond whatever income sources they may already have. First and foremost, let's say that Jason and Emily only have one traditional 401k or similar type account. So 100% of their withdrawal has to come from this traditional account, which also means that 100% of their withdrawal is subject to ordinary income taxes. If this couple takes out the entire $75,000 from their traditional 401k, we first have to remove the standard deduction for couples married filing jointly, which as of 2025 is $30,000. So that means the remaining $45,000 of the withdrawal would be subject to ordinary income taxes. We have a progressive tax system where different levels of income are taxed at different rates in the US, and here's what those tax brackets look like. The first $23,850 is taxed at 10%, and the remaining $21,150 of this withdrawal is taxed at 12%, totaling a federal income tax liability of $4,923. Now, depending on the state they live in, this couple may also face taxes at the state level on this withdrawal. But again, that depends on the state they live in. And if this couple is also receiving Social Security, that will be looked at as income, and that may be subject to taxes as well. This simply looks at taxes on this withdrawal from the federal level. Something we also might want to consider is perhaps this couple wants $75,000 worth of spending power. So after taxes are factored in, if we're just looking at taxes at the federal level, they would want a gross withdrawal closer to $81,000. If we're simply considering federal taxes, on an $81,000 withdrawal from a traditional account, this couple would owe roughly $5,600 in taxes, which would get them closer to that $75,000 in absolute spending power. Now, this withdrawal does not consider any taxes that may or may not be owed at the state level. So if this couple lives in a state that does tax this type of withdrawal, if they want $75,000 in absolute spending power, they're going to have to increase their withdrawal amount to accommodate state taxes as well. On the other hand, let's assume that this couple only had a Roth account to draw on. And let's say this couple was in the same exact situation, that they need $75,000 as a withdrawal to fund their desired lifestyle in retirement. Well, the beauty of a Roth account is that these withdrawals come out completely tax-free. So essentially, we can ignore any tax tables. So it really doesn't get any simpler than this. If Jason and Emily want to withdraw $75,000 from their Roth account, they can simply withdraw $75,000 from their Roth account. End of story. Because the money you put into the Roth account was money you had already paid taxes on, once you go to take this money out in retirement, you don't owe any taxes on it later. With a Roth account, every dollar in that account belongs to you. You don't have to set aside any portion for taxes. Now, this is the point in the story where I like to say that a Roth is not always better than a traditional account. It absolutely depends on what your income was like during your working years and what your income looks like during your retirement years. If your income was higher during your working years and lower during your retirement years, well then a traditional account likely wins out from a tax perspective. If your income is lower during your working years and higher in your retirement years, well then a Roth likely wins out. And if your income bracket doesn't change from a tax perspective, it's pretty much a wash. Whether you choose a traditional or whether you choose a Roth, you're likely going to pay the exact same in taxes. Either way, both of these accounts are a wonderful way to build long-term wealth. The perspective we're taking today is simply looking at these withdrawal amounts relative to one another in retirement. We're not looking at a lifetime tax consequence. That's a different perspective for a different video. Let's also consider that Jason and Emily may not have had any tax-advantaged retirement accounts and instead solely utilized a traditional brokerage account. I still want to assume that they are astute investors and they're utilizing low-cost investing strategies. Maybe they're utilizing index funds or ETFs, or they're holding individual stocks that they hold for decades on end. This goes a long way to reducing their long-term tax burden. We're again going to assume the exact same situation, that they need a $75,000 withdrawal from their investments. Investments held for more than a year receive favorable long-term capital gains rates of 0%, 15%, or up to 20% depending on the amount withdrawn. Again, this is a very easy situation. If this couple wants to do a $75,000 withdrawal, the upper threshold for the 0% tax bracket comes in at roughly $97,000. So this entire $75,000 withdrawal would be subject to capital gains tax rate of 0%, and thus there would be no tax liability at the federal level. Now, not all states look at capital gains in the same exact manner, so they may owe taxes at the state level. Now, I know many investors prefer the approach of relying on dividends rather than having to sell the underlying asset. You simply capture the dividend payments. And if you capture $75,000 worth of qualified dividends, well, the tax treatment is exactly the same. Qualified dividends and long-term capital gains rates share the same tax consequence. So in this situation, there would be no tax liability if they had $75,000 in qualified dividends. So if we were to consider each of these investment accounts individually, and this couple needing $75,000 worth of spending power withdrawn from their investment account, if they had a traditional 401k, they would need roughly $2.1 million in order to meet this need using a safe rate of withdrawal of 4%. If they were to utilize a Roth or a brokerage, these portfolios would need to be closer to $1.875 million. Again, please keep in mind, this does not compare the long-term tax consequence of each of these accounts. Instead, it looks at a targeted withdrawal in retirement. So can you retire with just one account? Absolutely. People do it all the time, and retiring with just one account can absolutely be enough to fund a comfortable retirement. But by diversifying across multiple accounts, maybe that's a traditional, a Roth, and a brokerage, you can gain greater flexibility. Over the long term, you can better manage your tax obligations, you can mitigate required minimum distributions, and you can even create a more robust legacy for your loved ones. At the end of the day, a successful retirement isn't measured by how many accounts you have, but rather, do you have a robust enough portfolio to hit whatever your goals are. If you have a successful retirement, it essentially means you're not running out of money and you're able to live the lifestyle you want. So I'm going to ask anyway, how many accounts do you have as you prepare for retirement? How many investment accounts are you utilizing? If you'd care to share the types, share them in a comment down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. I'm trying to think of how much I want to say here. And this couple may also increase the amount that they would tax bracket. Do you ever get disappointed in yourself? I'm not there yet, but I'm getting close. Well, to fund the retirement that needs, that was awful. Believe it or not, I am trying to move my hands less. It's kind of a double-edged sword though. You move your hands and it says people watch the video longer, but then other people think I'm speaking some kind of secret sign language. Okay, I think I have a plan. I think I'm like getting better on camera. It only took 5 years. It's like an overnight thing.